Today I'm going to tell you about the rain simulator. I think it's one of the most powerful tools. My dream was to get all of NRCS and get all the employees to use this machine, and we can train the whole world. Our country and the world, and they're buying this machine. What do I love about this rain simulator? This rain simulator is not just about the rain simulator. Our planet does 4 things every day. Without any of these processes, there is no life on this planet. This rain simulator really talks about these 4 processes. First, capture sun. Farmers, our #1 job is to capture sun and turn that light energy to feed it, and turn it into chemical energy to feed the microbes. #1, process. #2, biodiversity. Our planet, the software of the planet is biodiversity. All of us have a phone. Without software, this thing is worthless. Ladies and gentlemen, without software, biodiversity on this planet of plants, insects, microbes, humans, this planet would be rock. That soil is biodiverse. It is the most biodiverse ecosystem on the planet. 50% of all biodiversity is in the soil. #3, without soil, microbes, without the sun, there is no water cycle. As you can see that our water cycle is disrupted. You can see it in the fields when the water sets on the top, because the water cycle is not complete until the water goes into the soil. Not runoff, into the soil first. Not to the river, into the lake. Soil first. The largest 3rd reservoir of water is the soil. Ocean, atmosphere, soil. Rivers and lakes are not even close. The last one, where we're spending billions of dollars. Because if you don't have a functional water cycle, you have no functional nutrient cycle. Soils are subaquatic. Those microbes swim in water. They need water. Not a functional water cycle, not a functional nutrient cycle. So where are we going broke? We're losing yield. Water's not entering, it's not cooling, and we have a dysfunctional nutrient cycle. This is what I get so frustrated when we promote that the planet, it's all about CO2, CO2, CO2. It is not. It is a byproduct. Please understand, when you're talking about biology and ecology, it is never one singular thing. It is multi-factors that are causing the problem. We have not capturing enough sun. Those 4 processes on a global scale are disrupted. And we're going broke. So it's not about carbon. Carbon is a symptom of the issue. It's these 4 processes that we're going to talk about, that nature does the same thing. One thing I want to make very, very clear. When I left school, I thought that that little wooded area functions different from the farm. It does not. Every prairie, every square meter of this planet, every square foot has to have capture sun, have a water cycle, have to have nutrient, and it runs on biodiversity. So when I walk on your field, I pull out a shovel and I can see where you're at if all of those 4 processes are working. We're going to talk about that and how you can use a shovel to show that. There's a saying the eyes are the windows to the soul. The window to the soul of the soil is your shovel. How many of you use a shovel continuously and look all the time to see where your soil's at? I go to I've done this with thousands of producers. Rarely do they use a shovel to see where they're at. Today we're going to talk about how powerful that is. So we're going to talk about how these 4 processes, and what I love about this machine, it shows all 4 processes working if they're working or not. And guess where all these processes meet? On the soil. Capturing sun, biodiversity. Soil is the foundation. If we don't get the soil right, none of those other processes are working. That's why I'm so excited about agriculture. Agriculture alone, by surface area, can fix this issue by itself. So now, what are we going to show? Here's this beautiful pan. We're going to measure infiltration. The end of the water cycle, the water has to enter. So each pan, it's not we, you did it. Mark went and collected each soil from the soils around this area. I love to capture soils because people, if I bring a different soil, you say, but Ray, you don't understand. You got the soil from there. I've heard that for how many times I hear farmers say, but Ray, you don't understand. Our condition's different. Really? I said, are you farming in the planet Mars? Are you farming in Moon? You mean you don't have microbes here in Minnesota? Microbes are everywhere. The difference between the microbes in Minnesota and Missouri, over here they speak Minnesotan. The ones in Guatemala, they speak Spanish. But they do the same darn thing. They want to be fed and they want to be protected. I don't know where our colleges have taught us delineation, distinction, but you never ask this one question. What do we have in common? Microbes, biology, life is in common in every square foot, guys. So the first thing to say to me is, what do we have in common? Soils function the same way. But people say, well, how about sand, silt, and clay? And guess what? Microbes modify those. They change the clays so they're not so sticky. They modify the sands. They modify the silts. And we're going to see it through this machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it rain. And we're going to see which one infiltrates, because if the water runs off, and when I saw here, when I drove, the water's ponding up. What do you think the national average for infiltration rate is? Anybody? For the United States, what's the infiltration rate? Anybody?
3 inches per hour.
Less than that.
2.
Inch and a half. That wooded area, we've done it in forests, 50 inches per hour. Native grasses, prairies, 20, 30. People that use cover crops and no-till, 30, 35 inches an hour. Why? Let the rain simulator speak, and we'll tell you, and then we'll explain why. This is happening on a national scale, on a global scale. Please understand, you're not the only one that farms this way. Venezuela, Guatemala, everybody farms like the United States. Lots of tillage, lots of chemicals, lots of fertilizers. Now, please, before we start the rain simulator, do not think that I'm against those tools. I did not say that. I am against you going broke when we don't have to use those tools. We have to be very careful with our tools, and the machine and the water will explain that. You ready to get started?
You've got the remote.
I got the remote.
With
Hey.
the importance of water, why are we spending so much money tiling our fields and getting rid of the water right away in the spring?
That's a good question, because you're going to find out with this rain simulator. Tiles are great. In fact, I stood in Washington, D.C., and I said they were paying, an engineer got mad at me. I said, I'm not against tile. I said, but where's your cover crops and your no-till? Who do you think opens the pore space? You see, what's your name?
John.
See John's beard? I love the Amish. They have these beards like this. When I have a fibrous root system like grains, and they're leaking liquid sun and feeding the microbes, they create aggregates to keep the pore space open. If I don't get those first 2 inches done in the soil, I don't care about the next 7 feet. The water's not going to enter the tile and most of it's going to run off. The covers do that. Soybean has not a fibrous root system. Corn is a weak fibrous root system. The covers make a huge difference whether it's going to infiltrate or not. So I asked them, why are you not doing this in the system? The person from Purdue got pissed off. Because I'm tired of water running off and people landing in, the fertilizers are landing up in their drinking water. How can we get more covers to heal the planet and less disease and cancer? Fix the soil. So I'm not against the tools. It's learning how to use the tools correctly. So let's watch. Let's let the water speak. This is your soils. Everybody get closer. We can explain. Mark?
Get the head going.
Oh, no, hold on a second. Don't start yet. Oh, let's start yet. Sorry. Yep, hold on a second. I want to explain the rotations here first. We haven't explained this. Can everybody see? Get closer, guys. I want you to see, because this is incredibly important. I hope this is embedded in your mind, because I never, ever get tired of showing this. When environmentalists see this, when climate activists see this, when farmers and ranchers, and when university sees this, it neutralizes everybody. Because they didn't have it right. I didn't either. Now, this is CRP land. And this is a grass. This is a pasture. 40 cow-calf pair. Grazing plan since 2018 and a watering system, right, Mark? Okay. Now, if you read this system here, this is reduced tillage, canola in 2024, perennial ryegrass, burned it down in the spring. And I get it by burning, you lit a match to it, correct? Yeah. Right? Okay, great. Yeah, and no-till canola, spring wheat disc, soybean disc, corn disc. This is a reduced tillage system, okay? Next one, on pan 5, it's also a reduced tillage system. No-till soybeans, implanted, spring wheat, high-speed disc, spring 2023, canola, spring tilled, perennial rye, fall tilled, and then prior was CRP. And then the last one, chisel plowed in 2022, 2 times in the fall, spring wheat under seed to perennial rye, soybeans, cereal rye, canola, conventional tilled system. Everybody with me? So when I line them up, I always line them for the more disturbed system into more what nature does, following the principles. Higher diversity, no tillage, more diversity, reduced chemical and physical disturbance. So I go from one point to this way, and I want to show you the difference and let the soil speak to us on how it works. Does it matter how you farm? It does. Let's watch. Let it speak. Ready? Go on. Recently, in Missouri, in the last 2 weeks, at the end of the month, we got 20 inches of rain. 20 inches of rain. How many of you are getting the rains at the right time, the right speed? Please raise your hand. You must have a great relationship with the Almighty, or we need to go talk to you afterwards. Because the rest of us, we either get massive drought or it's too wet. Have you guys noticed that pattern? Or is it me that I'm smoked too much cover crops and I'm crazy? But notice right off the top of the bat, as that rain is coming down, and Stephanie was very detailed. She says, Ray, we're going to make it flat so we can mimic the slope. But what do you notice right off in the conventional on the back of that white, on the white back here on the panel? What do you guys notice right off the top of the bat? That splash. So if you grow tomatoes, if you're growing some plants, a great vector for disease. Look at the detachment. This is a reason why our rivers and lakes look like chocolate. carrying pesticides and fertilizer with it. And something you paid a lot of money to do. What else are you noticing? How much? Now, by the way, these pans are mimicking your situation because they were saturated when he collected them, right? I forgot to mention that. These were wet when they were collected. And the way we collect it is like a big giant cookie cutter. We try to bring the whole soil intact. I think we got about an inch. Should we make it rain another ½ inch? Let's make, you guys want another ½ inch? Because we never just get an inch, right? Let's make it rain a little bit more. So these are measuring runoff. The plastic in the back is infiltration. I want the water to infiltrate, not run off my fields. I had somebody in Oregon say to me, well, Ray, when does the water ever come back that fast? I said, because we have pivots here. I said, wow, you haven't been watching the weather lately, have you? We get the range. We got 2 inches in 30 minutes. And by the way, I told him, even in your pivots, because I used to design those pivots, the water still runs off on the pivot. In fact, one farmer calls me and says, Ray, don't you know how to design a pivot? Pissed off. But I didn't know. Guess what? He was a potato grower and he tilled the crap out of that soil. And when he turned the pivot on, all the water ran off. I got the blame. I couldn't defend myself. That time I didn't understand what an aggregate is. Let's see. Can we flip these pans? Can we flip one of the pans over?
Flip as many as we want to.
Oh, yay. I don't think people understand the work Mark did. Let's give Mark a hand. Mark, this is a lot of work. Tim, did you help him too? Guys, we collected, we're going to 5, 6 places. It's a lot of work to do this. You know where the worst one is? Alfalfa. Alfalfa gets like rock. I'll explain that later. All you got to do is leave me your credit card with a number, and I'll tell you, explain why. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, now, we just made it rain. I told you there's 4 processes the planet does. This shows the water cycle. It also shows capturing sun. The more I capture sun, the more aggregates I build, the more I feed the microbes. Doesn't matter what we do. How much ran off and how much infiltrated. In drier areas, you know what farmers tell me? He says, Ray, cover crops use water. Is it possible your soil is so destroyed that you lose it and never infiltrates? The majority of our country and the planet has a functional you got to understand, a majority of the planet farms like this, guys. A majority of the planet farms like this. After 100 years, we're still farming like this and going broke at the same time. And our water's not getting clean. Now, how good did the reduced till, even though he used some disturbance, you want to come up? Okay. Did it help? And the rotation? It does. It matters how much disturbance you do. Also chemical disturbance. It matters. I don't know about you guys, but I want the water in the soil. I cannot afford for it to leave. It's too costly. So notice this one. Oh, I'm mixing them up here. There we go. Did I mix them? Did I do it?
That's the runoff. That's
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Yep. Now this one is the, look at the rotation on this one. This is the, how well did it do? A lot better, doesn't it? A lot more infiltrated. Now you're probably going to ask me, oh, is this the pasture? That's the pasture.
That's the pasture.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you for straightening me out here, Stephanie. I get, look at this. That's why I love grasslands. Nothing beats a grassland. That fibrous root system, leaking, feeding microbes every square inch to make aggregates. Aggregates. We're going to talk about that in a second. What the heck's an aggregate? And then this one is, this is the CRP. This one. How well did CRP do? Still ran off, didn't it? What's wrong with CRP? No animals. See, if you don't have animals eating that grass, it's not going to release exudates to feed the microbes. The cow and the grass were designed to be together. And the first thing environmentalists want to get rid of is the cow. It's not the cow, it's the how. I grew up in the West. That used to be all prairie. New Mexico, all the West is now desert. We cannot heal the planet without cows. I'm sorry, whether you like the message or not. And I tell them that. We can restore our range if you move the cattle by mimicking the buffalo. So now, we're ready to flip him? Yes. Any comments? Yes.
How little runoff there was on the pasture and the reduced till.
Oh yes. Yeah, thank you. Look at the runoff. Thank you for straightening that out for me, Todd. I'm dyslexic, plus ADHD, and other mental problems my wife will remind you of. She says, I can't believe I married you. I said, it's too late, love. But look at the runoff. Guys, this is important. You know, when Mark and I drove here, we saw ducks on top of the fields. And guys, we didn't get that much rain, really, if you think about it. I've been in fields that got 13 to 14 inches in a night. And they could still walk in the field. Please understand how degraded our soils are.
Well, these are hydric soils.
Yes, that does make a difference. But let me tell you,
Probably almost zero when they start farming.
I get it. I've been in those fields too. Been all over the world. But what can help fix those soils? Microbiomass, more aggregates, and we'll talk about that in a second. That can help. Look, none of us can change. Look, where I live, my place has got a lot of slope and rock. My soil is rock. It's the only place I could afford.
How come the pasture land has so much more total water? Like, where did the rest of the water go for the other soils?
What do you think?
Is it held inside of it? Okay.
What do soils want to do, guys? Soils want to do two things. They want to infiltrate and they want to hold water. You can only do that with the superbiotic glues created by microbes in creating the aggregates. Anybody have a sandy soil? Guess what changes a sandy soil too? Those biological glues. Now those sands can hold on to nutrients. They coat them. But guess what they want? Food. Living plant. I'm sorry, that's the only place you can get them. Food and microbes. Now, let's flip it and let's see what happened. Ready, Stephanie?
We
Todd?
talking about flipping the tilled soil and the pasture soil at the
Yeah.
same time?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think I got the short end of the deal here. I think this
It's heavier. Yeah. Hey, hold on before you flip it. Here, let me help you, hon.
I'm just
No, I want a
I'm
farm.
kidding.
Let's get a farmer. Let's get a farmer to hold it. Come here. Let's grab somebody. Come here.
Yeah.
I want you to weigh that before you flip it. Now you go weigh that one.
Okay.
Tell me if you see any difference.
A little later.
Which
Yeah.
one? That one?
Why? Why is it lighter? Pore space. Aggregates. You notice how I keep coming to aggregates. We're going to show you that. Ready?
Flip it.
Let's flip it. Ready? Go ahead and flip it.
I'll let you do it.
Ready? You want to do it close to each other?
Sure.
Let's get it close to each other.
You tell me.
Hold on. Let me move that pan. Okay. Ready? Go. So these have been wetted already a couple of times. What do you notice between these two soils? Anybody get closer, guys? What do you guys notice right off the top of the soil? What do you see in the back end here? It's drier here. It's wetter here. What else do you see? More roots? What else? Huh?
It looks finer on the.
Yeah, look at this. Those are aggregates. Little cottage cheese, little coffee grounds, that's an aggregate. They last about 27 days, according to Dr. Johann 6. They're always being built and they're always being consumed. They change. It's like the lungs of the soil, like the alveoli in your lung, the air sacs, the surface. Now notice this one. It's harder, compacted. Do you notice any color difference? Look how it's mushy. My hands are. These glues, if I walk into the field with this, my feet are clean. I can always tell when a cover crop and no-till field or a reduced tillage place, they use as covers. I'm 5'10". I don't walk to the end of the field, I'm 6'10". This one I am. You guys have all been there. I can tell you when I walk into a pivot and the water's standing up, are my feet going to get full of mud? This one gets sticky, requires more diesel, it's bacteria dominant, it's leaky. This leaks nutrients pretty badly. This one holds nutrients better, sequesters more carbon, huge microbial biomass. This one, bacteria dominant, doesn't have much fungi in it. Because we slice them, cut them up. This sequesters nutrients quicker. This is going to have better nutrient density for the food. This is not. This is addicted to fertilizer chemicals. Sri Lanka was going to go organic, the whole country. They almost went broke. Why? They didn't understand their context. They didn't realize that their soils were so destroyed, and they wanted to go to no-till and covers right away and go to organic. You can't go to organic right away. My father-in-law died at 61 years old. He was a functional alcoholic and a chronic smoker. He quit right away, killed him. We cannot get our farmers off chemicals and fertilizer right away. They'll go broke. Todd mentioned it. He's got to yield. The margins are too dang tight. You have to be very careful how we talk to our producers and why they have such a problem with a $30 cover crop. I can tell you why. I sat with a producer that farms 10,000 acres in Missouri. And him and his son, we had dinner together and I said, hey, please tell me of you three guys, how many of you clear $100,000 a year? You farm 10,000 acres. None of them raised their hand. I'd be better working for the government. Show up with my lunch pail. I don't even have to provide a laptop, and I make more money than a producer. Maybe some people at McDonald's now are making more money by the time you put all the hours. The quality of life for our producers suck. High suicide rate because of here. Our soils are dysfunctional and we're spending way too much money on inputs we don't have to. You know what I love about regenerative agriculture? Freedom. Freedom from the government, freedom from the bank, freedom from everything. It just depends what level you want to take it to. You know the number one issue that most regenerative farmers, they give up too early. They give up way too quick. That's why we have to work as a community. And we're going to talk about how we can calibrate our soils. We'll talk about that later. But my goal is to get this soil so healthy that you need very little inputs. If you do an occasional tillage like Todd does, it's golden. Look at the difference. You're going down the right path, Todd. We're going down the right path. But the number one thing that farmers do not want to do is covers and diversity. There's no other way. That's the way the planet works, guys. Your soil eats every day. Here's the concept I want you to think about. The ancient people called the plant the mouth of the soil. So if you leave that corn and soybean ground bare at the end, I don't think you guys realize how much you lose. You lose huge. Because you're not capturing sun all the time. Nature's covered, she's covered 24/7. 24/7. How can we cover as much as possible? I didn't say this was going to be easy. But if you want freedom from everybody, this is the journey. I have farmers that do not buy fertilizer. They have reduced their herbicides by 80 to 90%. With covers in Wisconsin also. They're planting soy rye. But if we give the ground covered at the end of the year, it makes a huge difference on how well aggregation. So before we go to the next one, now let's shift over here. Any questions about this right quick? Stephanie, any comments you want to add?
How,
Mark? Yes, sir.
Soil is supposed to be 25% airspace for water and 25% for air. How low can the air volume be before the crops are infected?
Here's the thing. I think it's actually larger than 25% pore space, isn't it? I think it's more like 50%.
Yeah, half's water.
Yeah, half water, yeah. It makes a huge impact. You got a great comment. Look, if there's too much water, your soils go anaerobic and they shift biologically and chemistry-wise. Then you start losing nitrogen. It is a big issue. But guess what brings our salvation? Aggregate. So the more aggregates, the more pore space. That's why that soil is so much lighter. I want pore space. And then those glues actually also help you prevent compaction and hold the tractor up.
What about where the grain cart goes, the heavy grain cart, you get compaction?
That's why I love glues and aggregates. They're very forgiving. Think about those roots. They act like rebar, but you're feeding these superbiotic glues. That's what saves us. Guys that have been doing no-till and covers for a long time or reduced tillage, but lots of covers. That's why I'm willing to change my rotations, shorten my day lengths, because at the end of the day, I don't want to buy inputs. That's how I make money, even when corn's $3.50. It's your inputs. We're running our farms on ancient sunlight. Diesel, fertilizer, all those is ancient sunlight. I want my farm to run on new sunlight. That's where we're going broke.